Now, the Asante-Mampong Divisional Command has opened investigations into Wednesday's bloody clashes between supporters of two parliamentary aspirants over filing of nomination forms. Checks at the Mampong Government Hospital revealed 5 people who reported that the facility with varied degrees of injuries ranging from neck, head and hand injuries have all been treated and discharged. Divisional Commander Chief Superintendent David Kofi Amwako says the command has extended invitation to victims of Wednesday's clashes and all interested parties, including constituency executives of the New Patriotic Party. Ohimin Terrier of our security desk has more in the following report.
Club-wielding supporters of incumbent MP Kwaku Sapon Amprechum engaged in the free-for-all fight with those of former presidential aspirant Francis Adenimo at the party's office on Wednesday. Police were called in after the clash to maintain law and order. The scene of the clash, the party's constituency office, had been left open with items scattered on the floor. One of the injured victims is 35-year-old Awal Ibrahim, also known as Obo, a known supporter of the incumbent MP, Sapon Amprechum. He suffered head, hand and chest injuries in the clash.
My injuries, you see, it's my head and it was very serious. My body, as I'm talking to you, one of my arms, I'm not feeling well, and my finger is very serious. I'm feeling pains in my hand. The internal ones are very serious than the one I just having it on my head. So it was very serious, yeah.
So what has police been telling you after the report, the complaints that you lodged with the police?
All right, they have said nothing yet. I just received a call from the divisional police commander and that I should report at his office within 10 minutes.
Ibrahim was seen beating a supporter of Mr. Adainimo, identified only as Kwame, after hitting him with a club. Defending his action, he told Joy News his action was for self-protection.
We were only two and we tried to even just protect ourselves and then run away from that place, and they said...
So how did you protect yourself in the process?
All right, we were holding nothing. So you see, they were holding chains and whatever. They were just using the things on us. Yes. So I tried and snatched one of the sticks. So I used it, one of them. I hit it with him. So he just fell down. And I got the space with my brother. And we just ran down there, from the story building down there. Not knowing there were even plenty down there, that down of the story building. Yes. So they continue beating us seriously. So we tried defending ourselves, and police station was just near the party office. So we just rushed and to the police station and reported to them, and they took her to the hospital.
Another victim, Amenyampong Prince, who sustained neck injuries, is unable to speak properly following Wednesday's attack. Meanwhile, Mr. Adainimo has filed his nomination forms at the regional office on Thursday. From Kumasi for Joy News, Ohimin Terrier reporting.
Well, by now, you know that the minority in Parliament staged a walkout just before President Kufuor presented his State of the Nation address. Clad in black attires, the parliamentarians of the opposition walked out right after the national anthem was sung, leaving behind placards with their concerns. The minority then addressed the media, stating reasons for the walkout. In an exclusive interview with my colleague Daniel Datsi, minority leader Haruna Idrisu said many of the officers making up the contingent at the State of the Nation address were former vigilante members.
As you notice, were in black to protest imminent threats to the sustenance of multi-party constitutional democracy and to reject the tyrannical tendencies of President Nana Addo Dankwa and to reject his attempt to interfere with the Electoral Commission to compile a voter register that, as cautiously warned by the U.S. State Department, may lead to voter suppression, particularly in the NDC strongholds. We are particularly alarmed as the President's refusal to recommend the recommendations of the Emil Short Commission report arising out of the Ayawasu West Wagon by-election in January 2019. The President continues to shield his indicted appointees, even as that threatens the peace and stability of our country and its democracy. I mean, what happened in Ayawasu West Wagon was state-sponsored terrorism, when you have people use state authority, state resources, state power to intimidate a political opponent. It's not the same thing as justifying an MPP-NDC rivalry or conflict or fight that may end regrettably or unfortunately. But state-sponsored, can you imagine what will happen to the state and republic? December 7, 2020, if we have a repeat of that in just parts of the country or substantial parts of the country, and we are particularly concerned that many of their vigilantes have found their way into the security agencies, and we doubt whether their loyalty will be to the state or to the new patriotic party. If you are comfortable with vigilante groups going into the Ghana Police Service, God bless you. If you are comfortable with the continuous closure of radio, FM station and television station, and you are dear to democracy, God bless you.
With the vigilante groups that you say have infiltrated the security services, the Peace Council is currently taking part in talks between the NDC and the MPP to root out these groups. The NDC has refused to sign the document.
Yeah, because of the insincerity associated with some of these dialogue processes. You openly see MPP vigilantes being absorbed. Today, you didn't see them as you were entering. They offended us off to walk out.
So it's because of them that you walked out?
You saw the SWAT group. You saw them. They were deployed. We can't accept them.
So is it because of the presence of the SWAT group that you walked out?
It is part of our reason. We elevated it and we considered it, but when we saw them, then we say our democracy is in danger.
Meanwhile, the majority members are questioning the moral rights of the minority to participate in the debate of the State of the Nation address they boycotted. Let's listen to the Communications Minister, Ursula Owusu-Ekufo.
Responsibility to the constituents who voted them into office to listen to their constitutional requirement of the President delivering his State of the Nation address to Parliament. But as the President indicated, it's a sign of things to come. Nature abhors a vacuum. They would also stage a walkout in the 2020 December polls, and we will occupy the entire space on the House in the country. After all, as the President indicated, what they were unable to do in their 16 years in power, we have done in 3 years. And so the government and people, the government is in very solid hands, focused, dynamic. We are delivering on our mandate to the Ghanaian people. They've shown clearly that they are completely clueless when it comes to governance. They are totally visionless when it comes to delivering on a policy for growing this economy and steering the affairs of state. It's not for me to say, but the people of Ghana are witnesses to it. Now, if indeed the President has said something offensive, which they were reacting to, it would have been understood. But staging a walkout, which is uncalled for, totally without reason, it looks as if they've taken leave of their senses, excuse me to say, particularly when their leadership also indulges in this complete completely unnecessary and senseless exercise.
Now on their reasoning, they will be speaking at 1 p.m., but we have got some indication from them that your ministry may be passed. They name the closure of radio stations as a sign that your government is undemocratic, among other reasons, that your government is undemocratic.
The law says, and they've tested the law in all the courts in the Electronic Communications Tribunal and lost. They filed matters before the court and discontinued those matters. How is it undemocratic? You are enjoined. There are rules governing the conduct of every activity in this country. We have laws passed by this House, which they, as lawmakers, ought to respect. So if you have a radio station which has been operating for 16 years without renewing its authorization, and it is shut down in accordance to law, you take it to the tribunal, and the tribunal says the NCA was right in what it is doing. You attempt it in court and you are thrown out. How is it undemocratic?
In the case
do they believe in the enforcement of our laws or not? You cannot pick and choose which laws to enforce when it suits you. Laws passed by this House, and we all swore an oath to respect and obey the Constitution and the laws of this land. Are they telling us that they will respect the laws that they are comfortable with, and what they are not comfortable with? They have no business being legislators if that is their attitude to the governance of this country. That's why I'm saying they're totally clueless, visionless, directionless, and purposeless, and obviously leaderless and rudderless. They have no idea what it means to govern this country. If they are legislators worth their salt, they will uphold the Constitution and the laws of this land in its entirety.
In the spirit of upholding the Constitution, I've heard your chief whip mention that you will not allow the minority to take part in the debate of the State of the Nation.
What would they be debating?
Is that also not lawless?
What would they be debating?
But the principle
is... What will they be debating?
The principle...
No, they boycotted the presentation of the State of the Nation.
But it's
so
not
exactly
your
what would they be debating? It is the duty of the Speaker to regulate the conduct of activities in the House.
Not the majority.
It is up to the Speaker to rule upon it.
That members of your side have said that they will not allow, they will make sure that the minority side does not debate.
What will they be debating? That's the point.
The question is it lawful?
You were
the
not
question
part
I am asking
of
is it lawful?
Of the State of the Nation address. You didn't deem it worth your time to sit and listen to it. What moral right? What right do you have to go and debate matters you heard outside the chamber, reported by the media when you were not there?
So where did the minority MPs go after the boycott? Well, they spent time in their offices watching the president on television, whilst others left the premises with their offices locked. My colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo visited some of them.
President is delivering the State of the Nation address. Why are you not in the chamber?
Yeah, as a minority, we decided that we'll walk out of the SONA for a number of reasons. That's why after the national anthem, we decided to go out. Our walking out is a protest for Ghanaians to know that this nation, the democracy that we have is under serious threat. And if we don't begin this way, I don't think we will have a future for this country.
How will a walkout of the president's address fix this concern that you raised?
Yeah, it's a message we are sending to the president that we are representing the people, and the people are saying what you are doing is not good. So you must change your position. And that is what we want to, the message we want to go out to the president.
So we're continuing our message to the offices of MPs to find out what they are doing. Richard Koshiga is the MP for the Keta constituency. So what have you been doing over the last hour or so since you, the minority, walked out of the chamber?
Well, as you can see, I'm in my office listening to the address being given by the president. So that's what I've been doing, listening to the president in my office.
If you really wanted to listen to him, wouldn't it have worked better you sitting in the chamber and listening to him than to walk away to your office to come listen to him?
Well, of course, that's a decision we in a minority took, not to be in the chamber, by way of protest and to register our displeasure of the happenings in our country.
I've come to the office of the Member of Parliament for Odododio Neil Antivanderpoint. Let's see what's happening here. Oops. Well, the office is closed, but I can hear the television in the background. Is he here or he's out? Well, maybe he's not here.
Joseph Opoku Gakpo there. Well, question still remains, will they participate in the debates arising out of an address that they clearly walked out on? It will be some interesting days ahead, and we're told that they're going to take that decision. We will let you know first here on Joe News. Now, corruption is one of the key issues many looked forward to when the president delivered his address yesterday. A research fellow with ISED, Dr. Atta Ankama, says the nation can make progress in the fight against corruption if only we move from a curative approach to a preventive one. Speaking on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM, Dr. Atta Ankama said the missing link in dealing with corruption is our inability to tackle behavioral issues.
Our approach to fighting corruption, for me, I describe it as a creative sort of approach. I think we need to also emphasize a preventative approach to fighting corruption. And what do I mean? You know, when we started in the 1980s, structural rearrangement or adjustment and all that, there was this idea that we need to build institutions, very strong institutions. And if you have strong institutions, then you can really fight corruption very well. And that is true. But the way in which we have built our institutions, there is something missing in the equation. And that is, we just make laws, establish institutions, and we don't think about the behavioral issues, which are also very crucial. The people that make up the institution, because institutions are as strong as the people who make it up. And even when I talk about institutions, I'm not just talking about the formal laws which are enshrined in the various acts. I'm not just talking about the various offices set up to deal with corruption and issues of malfeasance and crime. But even the informal rules that govern our relationship on a daily basis. All right. So if we find it okay for the majority of us to give a bribe to a police officer on the street so that we can go to wherever we want to go after committing an offense, and that seems to be normal, then it's really a problem. So in fighting corruption, we need to look at how we can take advantage of character building, all right? Character building, how we can ensure that people's orientation about the society, patriotism, love for nation, all these things are well inculcated. It is that the reason why we seem not to be winning the corruption fight, right from the days of the 1980s when we started building institutions, is because we haven't really considered the behavioral issues, which I think are quite crucial. All right, and here I'm talking about the role that what we call social control agents have to play: the family, the church, the school.
Also contributing on the Super Morning Show, former Finance Minister Seth Terkper said the previous NDC government reduced paper documentation and rather introduced technology to reduce corruption.
Within the public service, where because of the significant flows of government money through institutions, ministries, departments, agencies, private sector, contracts, you need to have very good systems and processes. And so I'm giving you the background for the GIFMIS that was launched, because you couldn't be processing almost everything that came through government in big files, in paper, You know the power of it. You just said you are a big fan of technology. If we had technology at our disposal, why don't we use it? And so, to summarize, not to take too much time, the first thing we focus on, and I was given that assignment as a deputy and going to be a minister, was to stop paper processing of all warrants, what you call warrants, requests for payments. We put a ceiling, there is the budget ceilings, which continue to be done electronically. So you couldn't, you see, if you put a ceiling, if I allocate, let's say, 400 million to Ministry A, and I don't have a view of what they are doing, they are prone to just, going on and spending. But if electronically what we did was to put a ceiling on the 400 million, and you cannot process any warrants beyond the 400 million. And that means that you'll be more mindful about how you spend, right? So I'm saying the human element is very important. And in fact, there is a hierarchy of dealing with officers in a public service. Just as you would have in any, employment, situation, private sector, public sector. So there are the administrative processes. And I think the thing is for us to examine those things. So administrative processes under the Public Services Commission, Office of Head of Civil Service, have been improved, significantly. Laws have been passed. Of course, people are penalized. Now the big ones, so we also then strengthen institutions like the audit service. And what was done from the 90s,
Well, Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng rather wants more attention to be paid to critical measures taken by the government to fight corruption.
The discussion about corruption should be about interventions to deal with corruption. If you disagree with that, you can say so. And what the president did yesterday was to list some of the things that, as a government, we have been doing to address corruption, and the additional resources we're putting into the corruption fight, the additional resources we're using to boost the work of those institutions that have been set up to address corruption. Now, I think it reflects clearly a government that has committed to fight corruption. All of us have our own concerns in respect of corruption, and of course, as a government, there would always be room for improvement, but nobody can take it away from this particular administration led by the president. The commitment, when the Special Prosecutor's Office was set up, we didn't know who it was that was going to be appointed. For me as a person, and personally I'm an anti-corruption crusader, when I heard Mr. Martin Amidu's name mentioned, I felt so proud as a member of this government, because it reflected, you were always going to ask, if a person wants to shield people engaging in corruption, will the president of that government appoint somebody like Mr. Martin Amidu? That is something we should think about, and it informs us about what goes on in the mind of the president when it comes to fighting corruption. So we have done that. The Companies Act revision to bring beneficial ownership transparency, that is when people set up businesses, who are the owners really of these businesses? Because some of the time you have people in government with access to government resources, public resources, hiding behind these companies and redirecting public funds illegitimately into private interests. Now, by making these provisions and the efforts being made at the Registrar General's Department to set up an electronic beneficial ownership register, what we're doing is to make it more difficult to hide proceeds from corruption.
Now, the Ghana Bar Association is encouraging members and other law practitioners to pursue reconciliatory mechanisms in serving their clients and notes alternative dispute resolution avenues in Ghana's legal system must equally benefit the citizenry rather than the conventional urge to go to court. Ashanti Regional Vice President Marie-Louise Simon spoke at the launch of the arbitration and mediation rules of the Ghana ADR Hub in Kumasi. The call was supported by a supervising High Court judge in the Ashanti region during the formal launch of the arbitration and mediation rules. Nana Senso-Mensah has more.
Ghana's Judicial Service instituted the Alternative Dispute Resolution ADR program in 2005. It is part of the adjudication system to empower litigants to be directly involved in the dispute resolution process. Currently, 107 courts have been connected to the ADR program, as all district and circuit courts will be connected by end of 2020. Supervising High Court Judge in Ashanti Region, His Lordship Justice Kofi Akrowia stressed the potential of ADR will reduce congestion in the courts. He supports the GBA call for members to adopt reconciliatory methods to service their clients.
Our court processes are now tending to de-emphasize technicalities and aim rather at achieving expeditious, speedy and effective justice. Reference to Order 1 Rule 1 Sub 2 of the High Court Civil Procedure Rules of 2004, CR 47. The Judicial Service as a policy has of late been trying trading ADR facilitators across the country in its quest to open up the justice delivery system and to reduce backlog of cases, as have already been noted. I entreat our practitioners, especially our lawyers, to imbibe these ideals and to pursue more reconciliatory litigation than the old-time strict adversarial practice of the law. I also entreat our lawyers again under this program to seek to promote settlement by referring some cases from their firms to arbitration than always going to court or for full trial. This, in my humble view, in the end would drastically reduce the cases filed almost every day in our courts, and that helps to reduce the crowded and backlog of cases in our courts.
Ashanti Regional Vice President of the Ghana Bar Association, Marie-Louise Simons, entreats legal practitioners to take advantage of the ADR.
But we know that litigation has its own ups and downs, and major among them of the downs being the high cost involved in litigation, and also the time that we waste in courts, as has been stated here. And we also know that ADR has its also good and bad sides, but the good sides, most especially for the businessmen, is that the cost is reduced, time that is wasted is also reduced, and most importantly, in terms of settlements and in ADR, since the parties themselves resolve and bring out what they want to be bound by, it is easier for them to abide by it than in litigation when an arbiter, the judge, imposes some judgment on them.
President of the Ghana ADR Hub, Michael Osujan, says the ADR will aid speedy resolution of disputes.
Damage. So the Ghana ADR Hub was set up to provide just an alternative like this, and it is our hope this morning that having launched our rules, parties will use the rules so that their dispute resolution processes proceed more effectively.
Business owners and other interest groups and individuals attended the launch to appraise themselves with ADR procedures and explore ways they can support their work. Nana Senso-Mensah reporting.
Hello, good morning to you. Welcome to Business. President Akufo-Addo yesterday stated that the government is going to make available an additional 5 billion Ghana cedis to ensure they pay off depositors of defunct financial institutions. Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwarteng explains the move will ensure the receiver is resourced enough to clear all outstanding debts owed depositors. Ebenezer Sabote has more in this report.
Government has taken it upon itself to settle all aggrieved customers of the various defined financial institutions before the end of the year. Addressing Parliament on the state of the nation, the President said 5 billion cedis will be used from next week to settle some depositors of microfinance institutions and savings and loans companies that have gone down. The idea behind this payment, according to Deputy Minister of Finance, Kweku Kwarteng, is to ensure that there is maximum confidence in the financial sector.
The government's position is that government pays 100% of the value of what the depositors put in those failed financial institutions. As a Ministry of Finance, we are preparing to do this. We will comply with the dates he set, but essentially we will do so after the validation has been completed.
Mr. Kwarteng also assured that funds have been provided for the payment, but additional funds will be raised where necessary.
Yes, there is space for this, but we would look at what gap will arise in terms of available resources for this particular expenditure and the real extent of the expenditure. We would look at the gap and see how we will fill it. But the important thing for depositors is that government has made a decision to pay everybody.
So far, government has disclosed that the cost of the financial sector cleanup is around 13 billion cedis. Eben Sabotage report for Joy Business.
Now, businesses are being urged to prioritize customer service orientation to focus and fit customer needs. Executive Lounge, President of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals, Yvonne Ohui-McCarthy, impressed on the need to embed customer service in every business culture.
When you're starting a business, instead of thinking about the money, capital, I need a space, because most people don't even need the space that they're trying to get. They could do that business in their room on their laptop. Rather, spend time to educate yourself about the group of people whom you think you're going to be providing the service for. What do they need? How do you keep them happy? How do you anticipate their needs? So from the inception of your business, you understand your customer and you grow with them. Unfortunately, that's not the case. People start off their businesses and they think, oh, I don't need to know anything about the customer. And then a year or two later down the line, you realize their customers start complaining and giving them trouble. So I would say for us to start right, with all the entrepreneurial courses and programs that we have going on now, customer service needs to be embedded in these incubators so that people can learn who their customers are, what the right things are before they even start operating. We also need to look at how we can educate the younger ones because it has to be a part of us. When I speak about the mentality, you don't just get up and have a particular mentality. It's something that you experience. It's something that you go through. That's what forms the mentality for you. So if we're able to go through our schools, maybe not even primary, but secondary school, and then start teaching concepts of customer service, concepts of ownership, concepts of confidence, concepts of communication, because those are the building blocks of customer service, I think by the time they're done with their 3 or 4 years, they would at least be 50% there. So when you're dispersed into the work environment, you will be fine.
Watch the full episode, The Best Minds, on the Executive Lounge this Saturday at 6 p.m. on the Joy News channel and also channel 421 on DSTV, with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 9:30 p.m. That's it for business. Have a good morning.